Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome to Signals and Standards with Suzie, the show where we decode mixed messages, raise the bar, and serve up real talk with a side of empowerment. I'm your host, Suzie, your go-to for truth bombs, clarity, and the kind of tough love that gets you unstuck and back in the driver's seat of your life. Together, let's turn those signals into action. Welcome back to Signals and Standards with Suzie. Let me ask you this. Have you ever felt like you're stuck on repeat? Same issues, same disappointments, same frustrations showing up in your relationships, your work, or even how you feel about yourself? Here's an empowering truth. Most of these struggles can be traced back to one thing: your personal growth. Think of it this way. Life keeps handing you the same lessons until you learn them. Your willingness to grow, adapt, and even stretch beyond your comfort zone is often the difference between spinning on a hamster wheel and finally breaking free. And here's the good news. Growth is always possible. It's never too late to pivot your life into something that makes you feel more fulfilled. I know that personally. Now, don't get me wrong, personal growth isn't just a buzzword or some motivational cliche. I know we see it on Instagram or Reels and all those memes. We see it a lot, and it's become kind of a cliche, hasn't it? But it's not just that. It's actually the foundation of empowerment, being more resilient, and it really is a life-altering change. It's the reason some people bounce back stronger when they face a challenge, while others stay stuck. And life is full of challenges, especially now. We all deal with things on sometimes daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. There's always stuff out there, and how do we deal with them? Well, personal growth can determine that. When you grow, you don't just solve your problems either. You're actually transforming how you face those problems and the challenges in your life. So today, we're going to be pulling back the curtain on how personal growth can be a solution you didn't even know you were looking for. Trust me, you're going to want to lean in and stay with me for this one. I've often written and shared about how your personal and professional relationship experiences reflect your personal development journey. Who you attract into your life, who you choose to invest time and energy in, what you tolerate from others. These are all mirrors of where you are in your own growth journey. Relationships are feedback loops. If you keep finding yourself with people who don't value you and your frustrations are on repeat, that's a loud signal from life saying, hey, time to raise your standards. The same thing happens in your career, your friendships, and even how you treat yourself. The common denominator is always you. And here's the good news. When you grow, everything else shifts. It's the timeless truth. When you do the inner work, you will reap the outer rewards. And it isn't just coaches like me saying this. Science agrees. A study published by the American Psychology Association found that personal growth is closely tied to the concept of meaning in life and overall well-being. Notice that word, meaning. It's bigger than temporary happiness, bigger than just fixing one problem. Meaning is what keeps you grounded in the storms life throws you and will lift you above it. People who lean into growth report not only greater satisfaction, but also stronger resilience. That's why two people can face the same obstacle and one feels crushed while the other uses it as a stepping stone. The difference is growth. Psychologists remind us that personal growth is not a finish line. It's a path you walk for a lifetime. There's no "I've made it" moment where you're done growing. It's about showing up every day and asking, how can I become a little bit better than I was yesterday? Sometimes it's as simple as learning how to pause before reacting. Sometimes it's asking for help instead of carrying everything alone. These aren't massive overhauls of your life. They're micro shifts that create macro results. Here's a wisdom nugget worth remembering. Growth doesn't take away your problems. It upgrades you so you can handle them differently. Think about it. The disagreement with your partner, growth turns it from a battle into a conversation. That overwhelming deadline, growth reframes it from a burden into an opportunity. Growth doesn't stop the rain, but it does hand you an umbrella. And cheesy as it sounds, sometimes it even teaches you how to dance in the storm. Experts have consistently emphasized that growth is deeply connected to self-awareness, emotional regulation, and also a sense of purpose. Translation: when life feels like it's falling apart, the solution isn't always a new job, a new relationship, or a new city. Often, the solution is to turn inward and ask, what's this teaching about me? What's this teaching me about me? Because when you shift to the inside instead of the outside, everything else will follow. A Psychology Today article that really resonated with me referred to all this as the joy of personal growth. And I love that framing because growth isn't just about patching up what's broken. It's about discovering hidden talents, reclaiming your forgotten dreams, or even the ones left on the shelf to rot, and surprising yourself with what you're capable of. There's a deep, satisfying joy that comes from realizing, wow, I didn't think I could handle this, but I did. That right there is growth in action, and it motivates you to do more. And let's not forget, growth requires intentionality and energy. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't transform it if you're running on fumes. Studies published in the U.S. National Library of Medicine show that personal development practices such as mindfulness, meditation, or therapy not only improve mental health, but also physical health, lowering stress, strengthening immunity, and boosting overall vitality. Self-care isn't indulgence, it's your fuel source. Without it, the engine of growth sputters. That's where you get the battery life to maintain your personal development. When viewed through the lens of consciousness, personal growth is about taking intentional actions. You don't stumble into growth by accident. It's not about binge watching motivational reels or repeating affirmations without action. It's about making a conscious choice, setting boundaries, taking responsibility, taking the time to pause, taking the time to reflect. Each intentional step becomes a brick in the foundation of a stronger, wiser, and more empowered you. And now let me offer you a metaphor that really resonates. Think of yourself like a smartphone. If you're still running outdated software, trying to install the latest apps, what happens? The phone freezes, glitches, and drains itself trying to keep up. Maybe it doesn't even let you download the apps. The same thing happens in your life. If you're operating from outdated beliefs, old wounds, and worn-out habits, your system struggles. Relationships crash. Work feels overwhelming. Progress lags. But the moment you update your software, your mindset, your emotional toolkit, your boundaries, stuff like that, and delete the junk or old files, suddenly everything runs smoother. You don't need a whole new phone. You need an update, right? Here's your aha moment. Personal growth is life's software update. Without it, you'll keep crashing. With it, you'll unlock your full capacity. And the best part? You don't have to download anyone else's program. You only have to update your own. That's your one responsibility, and that's the shift that changes everything. Your problems aren't roadblocks. What they are reminders that it's time for an update. So here's something for you to really reflect on. Take a pause right now. Yes, even as you're listening, think about the biggest challenge you're facing in your life at the very moment. It could be a relationship that feels unbalanced, a career path that feels stuck, or maybe just that restless feeling inside you that whispers, "There's more than this." Now ask yourself honestly, what if the solution isn't out there at all? What if it isn't about the other person changing, or your boss suddenly recognizing your worth, or life magically rearranging itself? What if the first and most potent step is about you growing into a stronger, clearer, more grounded version of yourself? Here's the real aha moment here. The power has always been within you. We spend so much time searching for answers in people, in circumstances, or look for quick fixes, when in reality, your inner growth is the key that unlocks new outcomes. When you grow, your perspective shifts, your standards rise, your energy changes. And as a result, the way you experience life and the way others respond to you changes too. So let me ask you, what problem in your life right now could be solved, or at least alleviated, by focusing on your own growth instead of seeking external fixes or blaming other people? Sit with that for a moment. Let it sink in, because here's the truth. Growth doesn't just help you cope with challenges. It transforms the way you challenges show up in your life, and that's where real empowerment begins. Thank you for joining us. Next, we'll be answering some fascinating listener questions. Remember, you can always send in your own questions at powercoachsuzie.com. Here's our first question. I feel like I keep dating the same kind of person over and over again, and it always ends badly. What am I doing wrong? Am I the problem? This question is so real, and I bet a lot of you listening right now are feeling seen. It's relatable, isn't it? Because how many times have you caught yourself saying, "Oh, I swore I wouldn't end up here again, but somehow I did." Or, "I have bad luck." You start with hope. You dive in thinking, this time is different. You make excuses, right? But then the same old patterns play out like reruns of a show you didn't sign up to binge watch. And it's not just frustrating, it's exhausting. You ask yourself, is it them? Is it me? Is it the universe playing some cruel joke on me? Here's the truth. It's not the universe out to get you. What you're experiencing is a mirror. I've spoken before about how patterns in dating and in our life reflect what's going on inside us. What we're projecting, what we're tolerating, and sometimes what we're refusing to face. Think of it like this. If you keep tuning into the same radio station, you're going to keep hearing the same types of songs. And if you're stuck on a frequency that broadcasts drama, disappointment, or unavailable partners, it's not about the songs changing. It's about adjusting your dial. That's what personal growth does. And science backs this up in powerful ways. Studies have found that people who actively invest in personal growth shift their entire perception. Suddenly, Those little red flags you used to gloss over start flashing like a neon warning sign. That type you thought was your comfort zone, you begin to see it for what it truly is. Comfortable. Yes, but also destructive. Growth literally rewires how you choose, how you trust, and how you love. Here's where the aha moment kicks in. When you realize the common denominator in all your relationships is you, not in a blaming way, but in an empowering way, because you're the constant, then you also hold the power to change the story. Patterns aren't punishment. They're invitations. Invitations to grow, to heal. And you know what? Also an invitation to rewrite the script. Change the narrative. So let me leave you with this reflection. What's one relationship pattern you keep finding yourself in? Instead of asking, why does this always happen to me? Try asking, what is this trying to show me about me? That's where the fundamental shift begins. Because the moment you start growing, you don't just attract differently, you live differently. And that's when love starts to look and feel like the healthy, beautiful thing that you deserve. Here's our second question. I know personal growth is important, but it feels overwhelming. Where do I even start? Oh, I love this question because let's be honest, who hasn't felt this way? You scroll through social media, see people meditating at sunrise, journaling every night, hitting the gym, reading 5 books a month, traveling endlessly, and suddenly it feels like the world is screaming at you. Fix yourself. Fix your mindset. Change your life. Do it all now, because you're not good enough the way you are. And instead of feeling inspired, you feel paralyzed. You think, wait, so on top of everything else, I'm supposed to be a superhuman too? If that's resonating with you, take a deep breath. You're not alone. And here's the truth. Personal growth doesn't have to feel like climbing a large mountain in flip-flops. Growth isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about starting somewhere, small, intentional, consistent, and it looks different for different people. Psychologists suggest starting with simple self-reflection. So just take a moment to ask yourself, what area of my life feels out of sync? What's one small thing I could shift today? That question alone is more powerful than you think. It's a spark that lights the first step of transformation. Let me give you some examples. Maybe it's gratitude journaling for 5 minutes before bed instead of scrolling on your phone. Perhaps it's taking a short walk outside when stress starts to build, rather than reaching for other distractions such as snacks or your phone. Maybe it's reading a single chapter of a book that stretches your thinking instead of forcing yourself through 500-page manual. Those micro choices aren't insignificant. They're the building blocks of a bigger, lasting change. Think of growth like planting a seed. You don't stand there screaming at it. Grow already. You water it. You give it sunlight. You check in constantly. Day by day, that tiny seed starts to sprout, then pushes through the soil, and before you know it, it's a thriving plant. Your growth works the same way. Consistency, not intensity, creates the transformation. Here's a nugget of wisdom. Overwhelm often comes from believing you have to be at the finish line before you've taken your first step. The truth? You don't need a 20-step plan or a total life overhaul today. You need one intentional action, one small move in the right direction. That's it. And here's another way to see it. Personal growth isn't a sprint. It's a series of small, deliberate footsteps that over time carry you miles from where you started. It's waking up tomorrow and doing something slightly better than you did today. It's learning to pause instead of reacting. It's choosing clarity over chaos, even in tiny doses. If you encounter setbacks, start again in the next day. That's okay. Everyone has a different pace. Everyone has a different tolerance, and it's okay to start again. The important thing is that you start. So take a moment now and reflect. What's one area in your life that's softly whispering for your attention? Not shouting, not demanding, just whispering. Your health, your relationships, your self-confidence. What's one gentle, intentional step you could take towards that whisper today? Because here's the truth. The real magic of growth isn't in doing everything. It's in showing up consistently every single day. That's right. Even when it feels small or invisible, even if it's one small step. Those tiny deliberate steps add up. They compound. They create a new version of you, one who doesn't just dream about change, but actually lives it. And that, my friends, is how you start. One small step, one day at a time. Here's our last question. Does personal growth really make that much difference at work? Or is it more of a personal life thing? Oh, I love this question, because so many people think personal growth is just about therapy, journaling, spirituality, or finding better relationships. But here's the truth. Growth doesn't check the door at work. It follows you everywhere, every corner of your life, every meeting, every decision. It really does spill over. Think about this. How often do you feel stuck at work, frustrated with the same problems, or drained by difficult colleagues? Maybe you blame the company, your boss, the government, the economy. But the fundamental shift often starts with you. Personal growth brings you clarity and resilience, and it also gives you a broader perspective. It helps you respond instead of react. It enables you to see opportunities where before you only saw obstacles. And science confirms it. Studies show that personal development activities don't just improve emotional resilience. They also boost problem solving, leadership, and decision-making skills. That means when you're working on yourself, you're actually leveling up your professional game too. Suddenly, those challenging projects don't feel paralyzing. Difficult conversations don't feel impossible. And leadership, you handle it with more confidence and presence. Let me give you a relatable example. Imagine two people working in the same team with the same challenges, the same type of work. One hasn't invested in personal growth. Their stress builds, miscommunication happens, their frustration grows. The other colleague has practiced mindfulness, reflection, and self-awareness. They notice their triggers, they communicate clearly, and they handle conflicts with calm authority. Both have the same external circumstances, but their inner growth changes how the world responds to them and how they approach their challenges at work. See the difference? Here's a nugget to really sit with. Your career isn't just built on skills or even on luck. It's built on your ability to show up as a fully grounded, emotionally intelligent, proactive person. Personal growth is the secret ingredient that transforms obstacles into opportunities and makes you unstoppable. Whether you're leading a team, pitching an idea, or navigating office politics, it's all relevant. So if you've ever thought growth is personal, work is work, it's time to reframe. Growth isn't just about your private life. It's about every interaction, every choice, every corner of your life that you want to feel empowered in. Think about one work challenge that feels impossible right now. Instead of thinking the solution is someone else's problem to fix, that's the someone else's problem. It's your problem. What small personal growth step could you take to handle it differently and maybe even thrive through it? Think about it. Because here's the empowering truth. The skills you build inside, clarity, resilience, emotional regulation, confidence, don't stay in your personal life. They seep beautifully in your professional life, changing not only what you accomplish, but also how you feel while you accomplish it, as well as your relationship with your colleagues. Growth isn't compartmentalized. It's universal. Here's something to really sit with and reflect on. If you want different results in your life, whether it's in love, work, or your personal well-being, you can't keep showing up as the same version of yourself. Think about it. How often do we expect different outcomes while holding on to the same habits, the same mindset, the same comfort zone? The aha moment here? Growth is the bridge. Growth is what connects where you are now to where you want to be. It's the subtle yet decisive shift inside you that changes how you think, how you feel, and how you show up in every area of your life. It's the reason some people seem to effortlessly transform challenges into opportunities while others feel stuck in the same cycles. Take a moment and picture yourself 1 year from now, not in some vague, wishful way, but as someone who has committed, even in small, consistent ways, to personal growth. How would your relationships feel? How would your workday flow? How would you handle stress differently? That image is not fantasy. It's achievable. The bridge is right under your feet, and every small step forward is part of the journey. So before we move on, pause and ask yourself, what's one slight shift that I can make today that moves me closer to the person I want to become? Growth isn't a big, scary leap. It's a series of tiny, intentional steps that accumulate into profound transformation. Thank you again for joining us. Now I'd like to share a particularly relevant discussion I had with a client, and this is something many of us experience. I recently worked with someone who felt deeply stuck. They had tried everything, or at least it felt that way. New hobbies, joining groups, even traveling to shake things up, but nothing seemed to change for them. They were frustrated, exhausted, and honestly beginning to question if personal growth was even possible for them. Maybe you've been there too. You've done the new things, you've stepped outside your comfort zone, and yet the old patterns, frustrations, or feelings of stagnation keep showing up. Here's what we uncovered together. They were chasing significant sweeping changes without first building a solid foundation. It's like trying to make a house starting with the roof. You need the foundation first or it all collapses, right? And the good news? That foundation isn't glamorous, but it's incredibly powerful. We went back to the basics. I introduced the concept of self-care. Not just the kind that looks good on social media or that feels indulgent, but the real practical self-care. Rest, boundaries, nourishing your body, and honoring your energy. These are the things that create the soil where growth can actually take root. Then we tackled goal setting using SMART principles, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So instead of saying, I'm going to change my entire life, their first goal was as simple as creating a consistent morning routine. That small step felt achievable, but more importantly, it gave them a sense of control and accomplishment. From there, we layered on additional steps. So journaling, regular body movement, nurturing social connections, and other habits that aligned with their broader vision. Those small wins accumulated, creating a momentum and reinforcing the belief that change was indeed possible. We also acknowledge that sometimes growth requires more profound healing. For some underlying issues, I recommended therapy to provide professional support and tools they couldn't get along with. And here's the key. That's okay. Everyone has layers, and everyone has areas where outside guidance accelerates transformation. It's not failure, it's part of the process. It's okay. I want you to know this. Growth doesn't happen all at once, and it doesn't happen by pushing yourself into every new activity or trend at the same time. It occurs in small intentional steps, and those steps over time compound into powerful transformation. Here's a personal story to make this hit home. I remember a time in my own life where I felt stuck too. I had tried to overhaul my work relationships, my daily routines all at once, and I just ended up burnt out and disappointed. It wasn't until I slowed down, focused on one habit, and built consistent momentum that I started to feel real change in my life. I realized then what I teach now. It's not about doing everything. It's about starting with one foundation, then building layer by layer. So the takeaway? If you feel stuck, you're not failing. You're human. Growth isn't about giant leaps. It's about consistent, intentional actions that align with the person that you want to become. Every small step matters. Every mindful choice matters. And over time, those steps create the transformation you've been looking for. It's true. You can do it. You're absolutely capable of doing it. That's a wrap for this week's episode of Signals and Standards with Suzie. Today we delved into a profound truth. Personal growth isn't just a self-help buzzword. It's the solution to many of life's challenges. From studies linking growth to resilience, meaning, and emotional intelligence to the real-life questions you, our listeners, sent in about dating patterns, work stress, and feeling overwhelmed. The message is crystal clear. Growth is empowerment. Personal growth is what transforms stuck moments into stepping stones. It's what turns frustration into clarity, reactive energy into intentional action, and confusion into confident decision-making. It's actually the shift from living life on autopilot to leading your own story. And who doesn't want that? The patterns that feel unbreakable in your life, those work challenges that feel insurmountable, even the relationships that keep repeating themselves, all of these respond to the changes you make within yourself first. Remember the examples we explored today? The listener stuck in repeating dating cycles, the listener overwhelmed by the thought of starting a growth journey, and the client who felt stuck even after trying new activities. What's the common thread here? It was always the same, right? When we slow down, build a strong foundation through self-care, take intentional steps, and sometimes reach out for help, transformation isn't just possible. It becomes inevitable as growth compounds. Momentum builds and life begins to feel lighter, more transparent, and more aligned with who you genuinely want to be. So here's the key takeaway to hold on to. Your personal growth is the bridge from where you are to where you want to be. It's not about doing everything at once. It's about starting with one intentional step, nurturing it and allowing it to ripple out in every area of your life. Every small action matters. Every choice builds your momentum. And over time, those small shifts create the empowered, unstoppable life you've been seeking. Think of this as your reminder. The power to change your life isn't out there. It's already within you. Growth is your compass. Growth is your fuel, and it's also the bridge. And every time you invest in yourself, you're not just surviving, you're thriving. It's time for your affirmation for this week. So repeat after me. I grow a little more every day. Because you know what? You're showing up for yourself and that matters. I grow a little more every day. Each step, regardless of how small, moves you closer to your best self. I grow a little more every day. Believe in your progress, trust the process, and honor your journey. Now take a deep breath in and out. Let those words sink in. I grow a little more every day. Feel the truth of them in your body, your mind, and your heart. Notice the strength, the momentum, and the confidence that comes from acknowledging your growth, even in small increments. Carry that energy with you as you step into the rest of your day, knowing every action that you take builds the empowered, unstoppable life you deserve. Thank you for being here and stepping into your power with me today. I look forward to seeing you next week for another empowering conversation. For daily inspiration and practical advice, find me on social media at Power Coach Suzie. Got questions or ideas for the show? Head to powercoachsuzie.com where you can connect with me, explore the blog, or learn more about what I do. This is Suzie signing off. Until next time, keep reading the signals and never, ever lower your standards.